me check that this is true. So the two terms that we are taking here are product of XL and YR, this is coming here, YL and XR, this is here. The remaining two terms will be XL, XR. So we are subtracting this thing out. No, sorry, what am I saying? I did was wrong. Ignore that. It's XL, YL. Let's write it like this. X plus XR okay, now it should be fine. So suppose the right hand side is like this. So XL times YR is giving us this product. XR times YL is giving us this product. And we need to subtract two terms. Is this correct? So now just see what is happening here. What did I do? Let me just turn the board slightly to this side. What did I do? A priori it seems just like some arbitrary algebraic manipulation, right? But there is a deeper message here. To compute this term, we needed to compute two subproblems, right? Instead, see what we are doing here. This is the same term, right? But now, how many products do you need to take to compute this term? Only one. Meaning, what I specifically want to say is this. Where do I write this? Suppose we consider the solutions to the following subproblem. XL, YL, XR, YR, XL plus XR, how many subproblems are there now? 3, right? Because XL plus XR is also going to be roughly an n over 2 bit integer, and this is also an n over 2 bit integer. But note this formula here. We have XL YL from this subproblem, we have XR YR from this subproblem, and we need this term. This term also we can get back from just these 3 subproblems only. Right? So the moral of the story is it's just as some simple algebraic manipulation. If you just write this term like this, instead of solving 4 subproblems of size n over 2, you can get away with solving just 3 subproblems of size n over 2. Is this clear? Okay. Then what will you have? The recurrence relation will change, right? The only change that will happen is now this becomes 3 times PNP. Okay. So now let us look at this recurrence tree again and see what is the running time going to look like. So the notion of levels are well defined. It's going to look like this, right? In the root, you have this problem of size n, and to solve that problem, you are taking n times. So I'm just going to write this n in blue. How many children will this root have? 3. each of size n by 2. So what will be the cost of this combined step? Again n by 2 each, right? Now each of these children will in turn have 3 more children. And so on. This will go on like this. So note that this is level 0, this is level 1, this is level 2, and so on. So first question, what is the number of nodes in level K? Anyone? Sorry? Exactly. Because in level 1 you have 3 nodes. In level 2, so this is 3. In level 1. In level 2, each of these 3 nodes will have 3 children. So it becomes 3 square. In level 3, each of these 3 square children will have 3 more children. So it becomes 3 cube. So the number of nodes in level K is going to be 3 to the power K. What will be the size of a subproblem in level K? What will be this size? Anyone? Exactly. Going to be n divided by 2 to the power K. Why? Again look at here. In level 1, the size of a subproblem is n by 2. In level 2, it's going to be half of that. Sorry, this is n by 4. You should correct me. This is n by 4. So in level 2, it's n by 4. In level 3, it's going to be n by 8. As you go down to level K, the size of a subproblem is n by 2 to the power K. Okay. Now, what is the total cost of combine in level K? Exactly, there are 3 to the power K nodes, and for each of them, the cost will be n by 2 to the power K. So this is the total cost of combining them. So what is then Tn? Tn is, you start from, you just sum up all these costs, right, across all these levels. So this will be this huge sum. It starts from K equal to 0. And how many levels will it have? Log n. So log n to the base 2. This term will be the cost in level K. So I am just writing this as C by 2K times n. Okay. Now you can take n out, right? And just look at this sum over 3 by 2 to the power K. This is a geometric series, right? And it goes until K equal to log n. So its value will be, if you just plug in the value of the geometric series, it's going to be 3 over 2 times log 2 to the power n plus 1 minus 1 by 3 over 2 minus 1 times n. Right? Now this is just a constant, this is just some constant, right? And this minus 1 also adds to some constant. So since we are just looking at the big O notation, this is roughly going to be equal to, within constant factor, 3 over 2 times log n to the base 2 times n, right? Because the remaining terms will just be constant. Now what is this? Is this any improvement over n square? So basically we want, so this is our total cost, right? t over 2 times log n to the base 2. What is this? Let us say it's something like n to the power t. Okay. If t is less than 1, we will get an improvement, right? Because the total cost is n to the power t times n. So n to the power 1 plus t. So if t is less than 1, we get better than n square running time, right? Earlier we were getting n square running time. So is t less than 1? So how will you know this? Just take log on both sides. Take log on both sides. So what will be the left hand side? Log of 3 to the power 3 by 2 to the power log n. What is this? So okay, I am just going to make this thing simpler. 3 by 2 to the base 2 is equal to. Now one thing that you should know about log is that whenever you take log of something that is n to the power t, this t comes up front. So this becomes equal to t log n. This is just a property of the log function. And you can quickly verify that this is true. Okay. So the right hand side is t times log to the base log n. What is the left hand side? It's going to be this thing will come up front, right? Log n times log to the base 3 by 2. Now we can cancel log n from both sides, right? And so what we are going to get? So t is equal to log to the base 2 of 3 by 2 is 1.5, right? 1.5. Correct? Now is this number less than 1? Why? Because if it was 2, then it would have been 1. Log 2 to the base 2 was 1. So log 1.5 to the base 2 is less than 1. So in your calculator, you can just check how much it's going to come up to. I don't remember the number. You can just do the calculation. But the thing is that this is less than 1. And what does this mean? It means that the total running time is n to the power 1 plus t, where t is less than 1. So this is definitely much smaller than n square. So the only trick that we did was, earlier there were 4 subproblems we were solving. Now we are solving 3 subproblems. The rest of it was just going on the same analysis, and we saw an improvement in the runtime. Okay. So let me just erase this. Let me do a quick poll as to which ones are you familiar with. You said many of you are familiar with merge sort, but let me now ask a very specific question. Have you seen the divide and conquer analysis based on this recurrence relation for merge sort? So analysis of the running time of merge sort using a recurrence relation like this. How many of you have seen this before? Okay. And how many of you have seen the algorithm for selecting a median out of n nodes, n elements? Okay. So let me then go through the algorithm for median selection. That's better. So what is the median of n elements? Yeah, the number in the middle, right? So for example, suppose n is odd. Say I write 7, 3, 2, 9, say 5. So there are 5 numbers. What is the median? No, 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 no. First number by last number divided by 2 will be 6 here, right? That's not going to be the median. Two is the median. No, 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 no. Median is 5. Why? How many numbers are there which are larger than 5? There are two numbers, right? 7 and 9. They are larger than 5. And how many numbers are less than 5? Two numbers, 3 and 2. So there are equal number of elements that are larger than 5 and equal number of elements that are less than 5. So 5 is the median. So one way to do it is you just sort this number. I just gave it in an unsorted way, right? So if you sort them, what will you get? 2, 3, 5, 7, 9. Now you have 5 elements and take the middle element. That is your median. Is this fine? Yeah? Now, suppose I tell you, you are given this array. And suppose the array is sorted already. Sorted means, okay, and one other thing, you will not worry about this corner case that much, but suppose there were just an even number of elements, right? Okay, suppose let me just erase this 2. Then what would be the median? It's either 5 or 7. You can pick any of them. Okay. Because why? Because now if you just arrange them in sorted order, you'll just get 4 elements. And what is the middle element? It's not well defined, right? It's either 5 or 7. Okay. Sorry? No, it ought to be some number in the list. Median is some number in the list. Okay. So suppose this array is given to you in sorted order. And I ask you to find the median. Yes. So how much time will it take? Constant time, right? You just check the n plus 1, it's n over 2 element or something, or n plus 1 by 2 element. So this can be done in constant time. So we will not consider this. Of course, this is trivial. So we will consider the case when the array is not sorted. So you get something like this. Okay? And the goal is you are given an array. And find the median of that. Okay? Okay, so what is the simplest algorithm that comes to your mind? What will you do? Yeah, one algorithm is just you sort the elements and then of course in constant time you find the median. Okay, what time will it take? Okay, one after another. You said n square. Anyone thinks better than n square? Sorry? No. Anyone else? Yeah, so what is the best sorting algorithm you can come up with? Okay, okay, fine. What is the running time of merge sort? N log n. So if you sort the elements, it will take n log n time. You cannot get better than n log n, at least under comparison sort model, but let's not go into that. Okay. So the sorting itself takes n log n time, right? Now, if I give you a divide and conquer algorithm whose running time is not better than n log n, it doesn't make any sense because this is the simplest thing. What I am going to show you is a completely linear time algorithm, a O(n) time algorithm for finding the median. Because intuitively finding the median should be easier than sorting all the numbers. It's just asking for one number. Right? out of a list of n. Okay. Now, sometimes it's easier to think of a more general problem and solve it, and then see that the problem we were looking for is actually a special case. And that's what we are going to do now. Instead of focusing on the median, I will focus on a slightly more general problem. It's called finding the kth largest element. In an array. So k can be anything. If k is equal to 1, it's asked for finding the largest element in an array. How fast can you do it? Sorry? Yeah. If k equal to 1, you can do it in order n times. What will you do? You are just given n elements, you want to find the max. So you start with a variable that will always be set to the largest element you have found so far. And then you just look at the next element and compare it with the variable that you are maintaining. And you can go on doing this, scanning through all the elements. Is this clear? Okay. If k equal to n, what will you do? K equal to n means finding the minimum element. You can run exactly the same algorithm and again get a linear time algorithm. So suppose now I say k is n plus 1 by 2 where n is odd. Then this will translate into finding the median, right? You are asking for the middle element. So what we are going to show is that for any k, you can find the kth largest element in O of n times, for any k. Then of course you can find the median in O of n times. And we will see that this is just not a formality. I am not just talking about this more general problem because I want to. It's because even if you want to solve the problem of finding the median, you have to solve this more general problem as a subproblem. So it's better to talk about this more general problem. Okay? Okay. So to solve this, I'll first consider a specific subroutine. And we will come back later on to see why this subroutine is helpful. So for the time being, just consider this to be a separate subproblem, okay? And I am calling it a split pivot for some arbitrary reason. You can just call it something else. So what is split pivot? It says basically you are given an array of n elements. And now suppose I give you an element x that is in position x. You rearrange the array such that all the elements that are before x should come, all the elements which are smaller than x should come before x, and all the elements which are larger than x should come after x. You just rearrange the array so that this happens. So is this problem clear? Let's just go through an example quickly. Just give me some arbitrary numbers, okay? Say 7, 1, 3, 9, 8, 6. Let's say 5. Let's say this is 6, this This is 4, this is 5. Let's just say this is 5, this is 4. More interesting. Suppose this is your array, okay? And I ask you, I call the split pivot routine with 6. Then what you want to do is, all the numbers that are smaller than 6 should come before 6. All the numbers that are larger than 6 should go after 6. So this will be a valid input, right? So suppose I say 1, 3, 5, 4. Then you have 6. Right? So if you can return me the array in this state, it's fine. Note that we are not asking for the array to be sorted. This is not sorted because 5 is coming before 4. The only condition is that it should be sorted with respect to 6. Okay. So the question is, can you do this split pivot routine in linear time? Can you do it in linear time? We will first solve this problem and then see how this can be used to solve the problem of finding the kth largest element. Okay, now can anyone give me an answer to this problem? Okay, so what do that look like? I forgot what bubble sort is. Can you just remind me, what will you do for this problem? And what will be the running time? Nk. What is k? But k need not be constant, right? Because 6 can be anything. It doesn't, 6 can be n over 2th element. Right? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Any suggestion? Anybody? Yeah. So do you need to actually find the largest or the smallest? Yeah, you have the right idea. I will say something that is slightly different and you can notice why this is slightly different. But what you are saying is correct, roughly correct. So randomly write down some numbers. While I am starting with say 10, then 5, 12, 4, 3, 13, 14, 6, 9, 17. Now suppose, let's start with this guy. Not this. Let's just say this is 4 here, and so this is 5. Okay, so now suppose you need to take 5 as a pivot and do this thing. What will you do? Start from the left, find the first number that is larger than 5. So 10 is the number. Now 10 should not be to the left of 5. 10 should be to the right of 5. Right? Now start from the right and find the first number that is smaller than 5. So 17 is okay here, 9 is okay, 6 is okay, 14 is okay, 13 is okay, 3 is okay. So you have one number here that is to the left but larger, one number here that is to the right of 5 but smaller. What will you do? You just swap. So then this becomes 3, this becomes 5, sorry, 10. Now what you do? Just advance the pointer here, go to the next. Now in this range, is there any number that is larger than 5? 12. Now toward the right of 5 now, is there any number that you can think about? No, right? So you have 12 here and 5 here, just swap 12 and 5. Okay. So now this becomes 5, this becomes 12. Now you stop. So how much time will it take? This procedure? N, right? Because you were starting with 2 pointers, one in the left, one in the right. Then you were just moving those 2 pointers and you were stopping. When you see an inversion, meaning the pointer to the left here is pointing to a number that is larger than 5, and here this is pointing to a number that is smaller than 5. Then you are swapping it, and then you will keep on advancing these 2 pointers till the next time you find such an occurrence. And then again you swap, and again you keep on advancing the pointers. So the pointers from the left and the right are always advancing towards 5, right? And how many swaps will you make? At most n. And the pointers are only advancing, so the total time will also be order n. Okay? You seem to be confused. Yes or no? So this thing can be done in constant time. We'll just assume it. So this guy x or this guy 5 here, we are calling it a pivot. Okay. Suppose this is a technical term that we are just using. Now, let me say that a pivot is good if rank of the pivot, suppose a pivot P is good, beta. If you don't want to have this alpha here, let us just say, okay, what do I say? Let's say this is n over 4. This is P of n over 4. So what do I mean by this? What is the rank of a pivot? It's its position if you sort in the sorted order. Okay. So for median, the rank is going to be roughly n over 2. So I say that a pivot is good if its rank falls roughly between n over 4 and 3n over 4. Now this constant 1 over 4 and 3 over 4, this does not really matter, as you will see. As long as these are just some constants, you will be fine. So this is quite arbitrary. Now suppose I somehow magically give you a good pivot. Then can you solve the median problem in constant time? In n time. Can you? Yes, of course. Mhm. Yeah, so what I am saying is that suppose there is someone who is telling you what a good pivot is, but the good pivot need not exactly be the median, right? Yes. Yep. So the thing is, suppose I give you a good pivot and this is the entire array, you first run a split pivot subroutine. After that, you will know that the pivot lies somewhere here. And how many elements are here less than p? It's going to be at most Pn by 4, no? Why? Because the rank of this pivot is at most Pn by 4. So there are at most Pn by 4 elements here. And how many elements lie here? Again at most Pn by 4, right? Correct? No, at most, no? Because the rank of P is greater than n over 4. So there are at most n over 4 elements which are less than P. Sorry, there are at least n over 4 elements that are less than P. Hence, there are at most 3n over 4 elements which are larger than P. So if rank of P was exactly n over 4, how many elements will be larger than P? 3n by 4. On the other hand, if the rank of P is exactly 3n by 4, how many elements will be larger than P? N by 4, right? So the elements that are larger than P are also at most 3n by 4. Okay? Next, what we can do? Can you now see the smaller subproblem? So you basically want to find the kth smallest element in the entire array. You now have one pivot P. Towards its left, you have x number of elements. All of them are less than P. Towards its right are now y elements, all of them larger than P. So now, the kth largest element, how will you find? Either the rank of P is equal to k, then P is the kth largest element. Okay? Is that correct? If rank of P is equal to k, you want to find the kth largest element in the entire array. If the rank of P itself is k, then it's okay. Otherwise, you don't even know the rank of P. Okay, let us just say this thing. Suppose mod x is the number of elements in x plus 1 is equal to k. Then what do you know? P is the kth largest element, no? Because all the elements in x are now less than P. And all the elements in y are now greater than P. Note that you have not sorted the array, but you can still say that P is the kth largest element. So this is case 1. Case 2 is, what if mod of x is say greater than k? Then what can you say? The kth, you can say that the kth largest element is in x. And similarly, if mod of x is say less than k minus 1, then you know that the kth largest element is in Y, isn't it? So is it clear what we are trying to do? We want to find the kth largest element in the array. We are going to select pivot. Okay. Now, how we are going to select a pivot? For the time being, let's keep that a secret. We'll come back to it later on. Suppose somebody gives us a pivot. Let that pivot be P. So we will run the split pivot subroutine with this pivot P. This takes order n times. Now, the array is partitioned into 3 halves, X, P and Y. Just check how many elements are in X. If there are more than k elements in X, then of course the kth largest element is also in X, right? Why is this so mysterious? Okay, who can follow the second step? Just raise your hand. Okay, this is, suppose you have these elements in X and suppose you have these elements in Y. And you know that there are more than k elements in X. Okay, let's just fix some specific values. Suppose P is 100. Okay. Suppose K is 40. So you want to find the 40th largest element. Now suppose the value of X is say 50. Okay. What do you know? Each element in Y is greater than P, right? So basically, Y is greater than 100 for every Y here. And X is less than 100 for every X here. And there are already 50 elements here that are less than 100. And all the elements in this regions are greater than 100. There are 50 elements less than 100 and all the elements here are greater than 100. And you want the 40th smallest element. Can the 40th smallest element lie in this region? No, because there will then be 50 elements that are smaller than him, right? It's just this. And similarly, now you are searching for k equal to 40. Now suppose the size of X is 30. Okay, now there might be a problem. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, no, now there is also not a problem, right? So now suppose the size of X is 30 and you are looking for the 40th smallest element. Can the 40th smallest element lie somewhere here? It cannot, right? Because there are only 30 such elements here and all the elements here are larger than it. So if the element that you are looking for was say T and you said that T is here, how many elements can be smaller than T? At most 30, no? because all the elements here are larger than P. Okay. Okay, so the point is, what is the confusion? Can you please tell me? I mean, okay, now please raise your hand. How many people do understand 1, 2, and 3? Okay, good. So at least half the class is with me. Let me just now move ahead. So now, what is going on? Now can you identify the subproblems? What will be the subproblems? You will either look into X or look into Y, right? So now can we just recap what we are doing? You are finding some, you are getting some pivot from somewhere, magically from the sky. And with respect to that pivot, you are doing this split pivot operation. So then you can say that the array is now sorted with respect to that pivot. So in X, the elements are less than P, in Y the elements are greater than P. Now you are just checking how many elements are in X. This also you can do in linear time, right? And just by looking at the number of elements in X, you can decide whether the pivot P is your kth largest element, or whether the kth largest element lies in X, or whether it lies in Y. And accordingly you will recurse. Okay. So now, if Tn is the total running time of your algorithm, what can you say about Tn? In this iteration, you are spending order n time in doing this split pivot operation. And after this split pivot operation, you are branching into a smaller subproblem. And that smaller subproblem is of size at most, 3n by 4. Why is it at most 3n by 4? Because the pivot is good. If the pivot was not good, if the pivot was your largest element, what will be the size of this problem? N minus 1. Okay. So then you are just branching into a smaller subproblem whose size is say roughly equal to 3n by 4. And then you are spending this n time. What is this n time for? This is for the split pivot operation. Okay. Now what is the solution for this recurrence? What will the tree look like for this recurrence? This is your initial thing. Let me just go back to the colors I was using before. So this is your initial subproblem n, and you spent n time on the combined step. How many children will it have? Which one? Three children, you are saying. Okay, good. Let's just look at this. He is saying 3 children. Why? Because we have X on the one hand, we have P, we have Y. But are we going to consider these 3? We are going to consider any one of them, right? So if it is just P, we are done. It's not going to have any children. Otherwise, we are either going to consider X or Y, not both at the same time, which was happening in integer multiplication. We have multiple subproblems to consider at the same time. Now it's either X or Y. So how many children will it have? 1, exactly. So this guy now has 1 children, say of size 3n by 4. So what is the time spent on combined step on this? 3n by 4. Because he will do another split pivot, right? And then how many children will this guy have? 1 again. What will be the size of this size? Again, at most 3/4 times this size. So it's going to be 3/4 square times n. And how much time will you spend here? This is, you are going to spend this much time, right? Right? Sorry, I should write this thing in blue. And this will go on for how long? So this is almost just like a path, right? So how long can this continue? How many levels will there be? Anyone? Sorry? N. K. What is K? In terms of N, how many levels will it have? Suppose it has K levels, okay? So you have to stop after K level. So what will be the size of a Kth level? Yeah, so, yeah, good. Right? Now you are stopping here. What does this mean? This is 1 or some constant, right? Right? So what is K? You can write this thing as saying n equal to 4/3 to the power k. I just multiplied both sides by 4/3 to the power k. This is what you get. Now what does this mean? Now take log on both sides. Log of n to the base 2. What is this going to be? K times correct? Now what is log 4/3 to the base 2? This is just some constant slightly larger than 1, right? No, not slightly larger than 1, slightly smaller than 1. Is this? Yeah, this is more, the main point is that this is some constant, okay? So, K is going to be roughly equal to, again, ignoring this constant. So now what is the total amount of work you are doing? Can anybody tell me? Sorry? Can anybody give me just that expression for the total number of work you are doing? What is the total number of work that you are doing in this algorithm? Yeah, it's just these things, right? So initially you started with a problem of size n. For the combined step you did work n. Then you went to a subproblem of size 3n by 4, for which you did a work of 3n by 4. Then you went to a problem of size 3 by 4 squared times n, for which you did work. The combined step was 3 over 4 squared times n. So the total update cost, sorry, not the update cost, total running time is going to be just sum of these things. What is this? Sorry. K equal to 0 to something, some log factor. Okay. Now what is this sum? Can anyone tell me? Sorry? So this is just a decreasing geometric series, right? So it will be, you can just take n out here, and the way I remember it is as follows. Is going to be the first term in the series minus the term after the last term in the series divided by the geometric ratio minus 1. So what is the first term in this series? No, I have taken n out, right? What is the first term? A is 0, right? This is 1. What is the last term? The last term is 3 over 4 to the power something, to the number of levels. Plus 1 probably. L is just a shorthand for the number of levels that there will be. So this is the first term minus the term after the last term divided by the common ratio. So this is, I think, going to be 1 minus r or something. Okay. So what is this? You don't need to even calculate this exactly to see. It's roughly equal to n, right? Because this term, the denominator is just a constant. What is the numerator? 1 minus something. So let's just pretend this is 0. This thing can only increase. So this is order n. Okay. And this will hold as long as this is any constant less than 1. There is nothing magical about 3 over 4. Just replace it by 4 by 5, you will still get order n. Replace it by 99 by 100, you will still get order n. Okay. So now, in the next 20 minutes, what is the, I'll just try to wrap up the loose end. What is the loose end? What is the assumption we are making here? How to find a good pivot? Sorry? There is of course one good pivot. You can take the median, for example. So what is a good pivot? A good pivot is one whose rank is between n over 4 and 3n by 4. So now of course if you take the median, you can take the good pivot. But to take the median, you need to solve this problem first. So it's almost like a chicken and egg issue. Okay. And note that in the analysis, we critically needed that we want a good pivot. Why? Because we did not, if you did not have a good pivot, the size here would not be at most 3n by 4 of the subproblem. The size could be as bad as n minus 1. Okay. So how will you pick a good pivot? Mm-hmm. No, I am not stressing on that. You can just define a good pivot to be anything whose rank is say between n over 100 and 99 n over 100. Then you will also get the same path. So all I am saying is that a good pivot should be, its rank should be within a constant factor of n over 2. If it is exactly n over 2, then it's exactly in the middle. As long as it's within a constant factor of the middle, then you will get a range that is say between n over alpha and some beta times n, and then the whole analysis will also go through. There's nothing magical about 1 over 4, 3 over 4 or anything. So now the question is how to find a good pivot without solving the entire problem from scratch. Any idea? Basic discrete probability? Okay. Okay, so sorry if you don't If you have not seen this before, this last 15 minutes might be a little bit confusing to you. So all I am suggesting is pick an element uniformly at random. From the array as your pivot. Okay. So the array has n elements, and I am just saying out of this n elements, just pick a number, pick an element uniformly at random. Now note that we said that a pivot P is good if its rank was say between n over 4 and rank of P and 3n over 4. So what is the probability that a randomly chosen pivot will be good? 1 by 2, right? Why? Because how many elements are there? There are n elements. And how many elements are candidates for good pivots? N by 2. The elements whose ranks are between n over 4 and 3n over 4, they are the candidates for being good pivots. And there are n over 2 such elements. So there are n over 2 such elements which are candidates for good pivots. Overall there are n elements. You are picking one uniformly at random. What is the probability that that guy is good? Half, right? So probability that P is good is half. Now once you picked P, when you are picking P, you don't know whether it's good or not, right? You are just picking P uniformly at random. Sometime you will succeed, sometime you will fail. But after getting P, can you check in linear time whether P is good or not? You can, right? Just perform this split pivot subroutine. And this will give you the number of elements whose rank are less than P. So, in linear time, we can check if P is good. Okay. Now, in expectation, how many times will you need to pick a random pivot to find a good one? Let me cast it like this. You have a fair coin. You toss it, it comes up head or it comes up tail with equal probability, half. Now I say, how many times do you need to toss this coin in expectation to see one head? 2, right? So basically if a head was coming up with probability 1 over 10, then in expectation you will need 10 coin tosses to see one head. Because that's intuitively that's the meaning of probability. What is the meaning that meaning of the term that the coin is coming up head? It means out of X many coin tosses, you expect half of them to be head. So out of 2 coin tosses, you expect one of them to be head. Similarly here, so suppose you do this, pick a pivot uniformly at random, check whether it's good or not. If it's bad, again pick a pivot uniformly at random, check if it's good or not. If it's bad, again pick one more pivot uniformly at random, check if it's good or not. And keep on doing this till you find a good pivot. So how many times will you need to repeat this experiment in expectation? 2, right? It's exactly analogous to tossing a fair coin when you want to see how many times it comes up. Then what is the total number of, what is the expected time you will spend to implement this split pivot step with a good pivot? It's 2 times O of n, right? which is still O of n. And why it's 2 times O of n? Because in expectation you will pick 2 random pivots, you will perform the split pivot subroutine with each of them, and one of them will turn out to be good. So the total time you spent is still O of n. So the statement is, in O of n expected time, we can find a good pivot and perform the split pivot subroutine. Now, if this is the case, we started with this inequality Tn was at most Tn by 4 plus O of n. We still have this inequality. The only change is that now this O of n is the expected running time for finding the pivot instead of the actual time. And once you find this good pivot, you will still get a subproblem of size Tn by 4. You have exactly the same recurrence. So the solution will still be O of n. The only thing is that this is going to be a randomized algorithm with expected running time big O of n. Now the point is that there is a more complicated deterministic algorithm that also runs in linear time, but it's much more involved. So the randomized algorithm is extremely simple to visualize what's going on. Okay? Okay, so let's stop here. So these were some examples of divide and conquer technique to get efficient algorithms. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I do not have any systematic answer to this question. I mean, the thing is that typically you need to check if that problem can be split into smaller subproblems. If yes, then typically either divide and conquer or another technique called dynamic programming, which I guess will be taught in this course again. One of these two techniques work. So, yeah, so for sorting, searching, these kind of things, it's typically easier to come up with smaller subproblems. Now, there might be some other problems where it is not so trivial to come up or easy to come up with smaller subproblems. So the point is that conceptually you need to see if you can cast this problem as a combination of solutions to smaller subproblems. Once that is done, typically either divide and conquer or dynamic programming works out. But whether you can do that, that will vary from problem to problem. For that I do not have any formal answer. Thank you.
On behalf of the participants of the meeting, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude and sign for having spent this afternoon with us. Thank you very much. And for tomorrow's time. It starts with help.
Yeah, tomorrow we have 2 sessions. Morning we have dynamic programming, and afternoon we have simplex method and maximum network flow problem. Same timings, and kindly be on time. And also, as I had mentioned in the email, it may be a little too much to expect, but then just try to spend a few minutes looking at that topic and come here, so that it will provide you some context and maybe you will be able to ask more meaningful questions to the speakers, because we have the best people coming here. So I want you to make good use of them. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, so I should probably give you the names of one or two good, very good books that you can just consult. So, one book is called, I think, just Algorithms. I don't remember the name of the book, but the name of the author. So it's by, wow, what is, this is very, okay. So, there's this book by Papadimitriou. Maybe I'm spelling it wrong, but you can just Google Papadimitriou Dasgupta. Vazirani. And this book, so you can just download it from the internet. And this is very nice book, An Introduction to Undergrad Algorithms. And then there is one other book, again, I think this one is called Algorithm Design. This is by Leinberg and Tardus. And finally, I think Introduction to Algorithms. The names of the books might be slightly off. Just check. It's important to note the names of the authors. So this is called CLRS, Coleman Lazarson RS. Who is R? R I think is reversed. S, I don't know what S is. So if you just Google CLRS book, you will definitely find this one. Okay, but I'm not sure if these two are available online, but I'm pretty sure that this is available online. So you can download the entire book with all the chapters and the exercises, and you can find chapters on greedy algorithms, dynamic programming, divide and conquer in this.